And the NFL season rolls along. Trade deadline comes and goes. Bills roster pretty much or does basically remain the same. I'm Kevin Carroll. Welcome to the Buffalo End Zone Podcast, everyone.
We are proudly presented by Toyota. I am Andy Young, and if you were like me, spending your day patiently waiting for what was going to happen with the Bills, wide receiver, defensive tackle, your thumbs got sore. You got nothing.
A lot was on the table going into the trade deadline, a lot of possibilities, a lot of things that the Bills did need, especially due to injury on the defensive side of the ball and the lack of production at wide receiver. We really thought something might give before the trade deadline comes up. I was going to take Tuesday off to go golfing because it was nice out. Then you kindly reminded me that it was the trade deadline. I had to work. And there I was, waiting like you throughout the day. I actually tried to jinx it by actually recording something where I said the Bills didn't do anything at 3 p.m, thinking that might do something, and then I could get back up and fix it on the news side of things for television. But, yeah, it came and went. Nothing happened, and then we hear from Brandon Beane, the Bills general manager, on what happened. And you know, anyone who knows a thing or two knows Brandon Beane wasn't like, I'm not going to try to do anything today and just go about his business. The team obviously tried to get some help, especially, Andy, with what you look at with the injuries. And we'll get to the injuries throughout the podcast here because there's a lot to talk about there. But Beane met with the media and basically talked about how everything went down.
I, like Brandon Beane, was shocked that they didn't make a move. I fully expected them, knowing Brandon Beane's track record, knowing the aggressive nature that he has, knowing that he's done this in the past, that he's made deadline deals. Last year wasn't a deadline deal, but a few weeks before they traded for Amari Cooper. Knowing they needed some wideout help, I think he knew the same thing going into this. And he said, if I was a betting man, I would have lost that bet because he said I would have bet that we would have made a deal. It didn't happen for a variety of reasons. He said, I'm like any other Bills fan. I'm mad that we didn't make a deal. But he's also the man in charge there. So to me, it becomes, did you just not want to give up the assets? Were the players you liked actually not available? Did the other team not want to play ball? I mean, he did mention that he was looking at players in the division with other teams. That would be the Jets and the Dolphins, who are sellers right now because they're in the cellar. And seems like, at least, they either weren't willing to trade within the division, if you're listening to Beane, or he wasn't willing to meet their price.
I heard the same thing kind of from the Patriots, that I don't know how much weight I could put into this, but that the Jets basically said, don't even bother asking us. If you're in the AFC East with us, that's a non-starter. Don't even bother calling us. And I'm sure the Dolphins were in the same boat. But like Brandon Beane said, 99% of the players have a price that you could go after to get. I just don't think, if you're trying to get Waddle out of the Dolphins, there's no way they're budging if you're the Buffalo Bills. Or, players from the New York Jets, there's no way they're budging. The one area where I thought, when you look at it on paper, was Rashid Shaheed and what the Seahawks ended up giving up to get him there. I think it was like a 4th and a 5th round pick or something towards that effect. And all the buzz, I mean, this is just fans and people like you and I saying that that's a guy who could fit the Bills. Maybe he just didn't fit what the Bills want.
And part of it, too, could have been maybe they were big game hunting. Maybe they wanted something bigger than Rashid Shaheed, who is a fast player. He's a nice player, but he's a complementary piece. The Bills have a lot of complementary pieces. He's not exactly what they have. He might have represented something different in a downfield speed threat, but he still wasn't going to be a guy that tipped them over the edge. Were they trying to pry Jalen Waddle from the Dolphins? Were they trying to get Chris Olave, who was my favorite idea, from the Saints?
Right.
Shaheed's teammate. And it just didn't happen. So when that trade went down earlier in the day, they may have been waiting to try and thought they had some, irons available to them
Right.
that they were working on, and it just didn't happen. I really still think that however this all shakes out, he can say that he's confident in the guys he has. What else is he going to say if you strike out and you don't make a trade?
Right.
You've got to be. Okay, you move on. We're going to roll with what we have, and we're going to figure it out. They needed to bring in another piece at wide receiver, whatever that was. And to me, a complimentary guy, while nice and could add something, wasn't what they needed. They need a guy who is a true difference maker, a guy who can separate, a guy who can get downfield, a guy who can catch in the intermediate levels and get open. And that didn't happen. And I still am going to question that throughout the course of this. Now, I did have some conversations on social media with some folks who said, look, I don't think the Bills' offense either wants to do that with outside wide receivers or is set up to do that, both through their route combinations, the way that they game plan, the way that they play. Someone brought up that, and I think it's a good point, they don't do a lot to try to get those guys open.
Right.
And so
They really don't.
think back to when Joe Brady came on. They had a number one receiver who was having a big year that year in Diggs. They completely went away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Diggs did very little the rest of that season in 2023.
Possibly leading to him not wanting to be around anymore.
Right. So here we are.
There were rumors, Andy, that the Bills maybe were in the mix to get Ridley. Of course, the Deebo Samuel thing pops up with the Washington Commanders, and that's linked to Von Miller. So there was stuff out there that the Bills were linked to, I think including they were linked to Jacoby Myers, who I had no interest and couldn't see that Jacoby Myers would bring anything to the table that the Bills don't already have on the current roster.
And so now you're left thinking, okay, here we are. Trade deadline is passed. It's quiet at wide receiver. You didn't upgrade. How are they going to move forward? What's the next steps? And can they get more out of the guys they have? Specifically, Keon Coleman, who, being said, he understands that Coleman has a microscope on him. Being a high draft pick, being an early second-round draft pick, being a guy they touted going into this season as having improved, that they were going to need to count on. Outside of the Baltimore game and some random plays here and there, hasn't done a whole lot, at least stat-wise, production-wise. Being quick to point out, because that's his guy now and he's got to roll with him, that a lot of what Coleman does doesn't show up on the stat sheet, the blocking, those sorts of things. And he has made a step forward. It just hasn't translated into what you need or expect from wide receiver. You're not paying guys just to come in and block.
Not at wide receiver. Not on the,
Just draft 10 Jackson Hawes then and put them out, split them out wide.
Hey, you might be onto something.
Well,
there.
they'd love to play 8 tight ends, wouldn't they?
And then you have Joshua Palmer, who's banged up, who maybe him returning at some point ends up because it looked like Palmer was becoming that role that they were looking for before suffering that injury.
I mean, he flashed in the Atlanta game. He got deep downfield for a big play right off the bat in that game, had another nice catch, and then he gets hurt, like rolls up his ankle, and then he's out. So Palmer, I thought going into this season was going to be a key piece for them.
I did too.
And maybe it'll still come along, but limited in practice. He did go out there and practice. We actually did see a rep where he was the dummy on a blocking drill, so he's the defender, and he went down. And then he looked like he was in pain. He kind of limped off with a trainer for a little bit.
Sore a little bit.
Yeah, walked down to the other end of the field and walked back. Then he did jump back in and start participating a little bit again in that limited portion of the media practice that we can watch. So getting him back would be big. Utilizing more of Samuel and more.
And we can get into that in the next segment when we start talking more about what's coming up with their game against the Dolphins. But I said this after the game, the catch Elijah Moore had against the Chiefs in between two defenders makes me think that there's something there with Elijah Moore, that he could be utilized more.
I don't understand why he couldn't be. He's a guy who's had 50 and 60 catches several times in his career with horrible quarterbacks, with the Jets and with the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be something more there. To me, that tells me it's more systemic. It's Josh. Is he amazing? Is he a number one receiver? No, but he's got some talent.
And that's what's frustrating with this team is there's guys on this roster who you've seen in years past in other places that have made a bigger impact than they're making right now.
But I think the Bills have made a decision that we're going to win a different way. We're going to win running the football, and Bean even said it. He views the tight ends as an extension of the receiver group. Well, Kincaid's coming on. He might well be your number one receiver at this juncture.
I'm not the first one to say this because everyone out there who saw this probably thought the same thing, but when the Bills tweet out everybody eats and shows their wide receiver room in the middle of the afternoon on trade deadline day, I wasn't the first one to see it, but the entire newsroom while I was out there sighed and went, well, looks like they're not going to get a wide receiver. And I honest to God think that was the team kind of saying once they figured they weren't able to do it, they fired that out there.
I do think there is something to what Bean said also about cap space.
Yeah.
About they were very limited. They made a move to switch up Taron Johnson's contract to free up some cap space, and Bean said they had some other options if they could or did have a deal that was coming up. But they still only had, maybe $3.5 million to play with. There were guys that could fit under that, though, especially some of those guys like Olave,
right,
who had already had their bonuses paid out and that sort of thing, and it was just what was left on a rookie deal. They could have probably made that happen, but again, it's the price that you're willing to pay. And Bean, credit or not, right? Like, whether you believe in this or not, he says you've got to look at seasons ahead. And they couldn't take on a guy with a $15 million cap hit or think about trading for a guy that's young, but you're going to have to extend. I disagree with the whole premise there to a degree, but he's the GM. He gets paid a lot more than I do, and he knows a lot more
I
than
would
I
hope
do.
so, yeah. We're going to dive more into the Bills' current offense as they get set for the Dolphins and the defense as well. That coming up after a quick break. All right, welcome back, everyone. Buffalo End Zone Podcast. Kevin and Andy with you as usual. Bills at Dolphins. Bills already beat the Dolphins, Andy, 31-21 back in Week 3. That game in Buffalo. Now it's November, and they head down to South Florida to take on a Dolphins team. Looking at where the Bills' offense is and what's going on with a struggling Dolphins team and their defense, I mean, on paper, the Bills should be able to put up points, more than 28, against this Dolphins team.
Real quick, want to get to a couple of comments from our YouTube page and some viewers there. Roy Collins says, Samuel and Moore both produced on their previous teams. Why not here? I think we addressed that a couple of minutes ago. I would like to see more of that. And then he also writes, less Coleman, more of anyone else. Keon is in the doghouse for certain people out there. But, yeah, this Dolphins team, they gave them a little run back in Week 3. Gave the Bills a little bit of a scare, but they are just falling apart at the seams. They fired their GM. They traded away Jalen Phillips. Tyreek Hill is hurt. Tua struggling.
Yep.
McDaniel, has he lost the team? There's just not a lot there to like right now. They've got to rip that thing back down to the studs. But for this week, go down there and just throttle them. They need to, and I think offensively – they should be able to. Now, the Bills have some injuries here.
So I'm going to get into that.
Yeah.
Because running the ball against this Dolphins team looks like something with what the Bills have done the last couple of weeks, they should be able to do with ease. However, James Cook injured his ankle against the Chiefs. It was brought up multiple times during the broadcast that he had to keep getting it retaped, and he did not practice here on a Wednesday as the team gets ready, and I think he
did not practice Wednesday.
Yeah.
Who is the most important player to the Bills' success outside of Josh Allen?
James Cook.
Is it James Cook, Deion Dawkins? There's a few names. Most people that right now would say James Cook because he's the bell cow that makes this thing go.
Mm-hmm.
And he has developed into one of the best running backs in the NFL. He is almost at the top of the league in rushing yardage, right behind Jonathan Taylor, and he's played one less game.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely leading in, I believe, yards per game. He was leading in yards per carry going into this thing. He is such an important piece. But if there was ever a game where maybe you let him heal up, because you got Tampa coming up here.
I don't want to be that guy, but I know where you're going, and I agree.
This might be a week where James Cook, take it easy. Let's see if we can get Ray Davis going. Let's see if we can get Ty Johnson going. Maybe Frank Gore gets a little run from the practice squad. You look back
at that Jets game last year where Ray Davis had to come in because James Cook was banged up, and Ray Davis, when he was getting the ball regularly throughout the game, put together a nice game. And I think you're right. I mean, you look at this Dolphins defense and what the Bills might be able to do in the passing game. Get Ray Davis some run, get Ty Johnson some run, get them out there because there's important football ahead, like you said. And, you know, if it's a tweaked ankle for a running back, maybe it's time to take a rest for this one.
I mean, the Dolphins' defense is ranked 24th in the NFL against the pass. They are 10th against the run. They're 30th in terms of total yardage. So maybe this is a game where you don't necessarily need James Cook and you can still run the football.
Right, absolutely.
And you got to play the long game here if you're the Bills. Now, look, if James Cook's good to go, just needed a day off, coming off the game, and he feels right.
You could get out to a lead and sit him, too.
Right. He feels right Thursday or Friday, then you play him. If not, err on the side of caution with that guy especially because if you lose James Cook for any prolonged period of time or he's not good to go in the playoffs, that's really tough sledding for the Bills offensively.
Yeah, and offensively, we started to talk about Joshua Palmer in the first break, and what looked like him getting a little annoyed during a blocking drill with the wide receivers. But important to note, Andy, after walking it off, he came back and finished the drills with the rest of the wide receivers. I'm still not sure if he's going to be good to go, and with that, I'm still curious to see where they're at with Gabe Davis. Mm-hmm. If Gabe Davis, because it sure seems to me that they are indeed ramping Gabe Davis up to be on the roster.
Gabe Davis will play at some point. It's just when is he ready? So he had a couple of good days of practice last week, according to both Bean and McDermott. Had a little inflammation on Friday, so they sat him out Friday, did not play in the game, didn't get the practice squad call up to the main roster. Practiced in full, it would seem. I mean, practice squad guys don't appear on the injury report, but he was out there doing work while we watched, and I think he's a guy they think can help them. Is he a massive difference maker? Probably not, but he might be able to give you some good reps at X. He can do a lot of different things. He's reliable. He knows Josh Allen, and you never know with more injuries, right? What's going on with Palmer? Does anybody else get banged up?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see Gabe Davis at some point, and one thing he did do was catch balls down the field. Not the fastest guy in the world, but that was kind of what he specialized in. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. A couple of years ago, we asked him, does your depth of target affect your catch percentage? Because it's just difficult to make those catches downfield, and that's what they asked him to do, run a lot of routes down the field.
He was fun to watch, so you kind of want to see if there's still a little bit of that magic there. And talk about magic.
But he's got that meniscus he's coming back from, so that's also something to be concerned about, and he had some inflammation right away.
Dalton Kincaid, we hear from Joe Brady earlier in the week when talking about the amount of time Dalton Kincaid is out on the field. He's becoming, I think, what the Bills were hoping they were getting when they drafted him. But the fact that he's out there for 33% of the snaps on offense against the Chiefs, and when he's out there, he's getting the ball. I mean, eventually you're tipping your hand when the dude comes walking out on the field. I get it that he might be a liability of sorts in the run game because he's not the best blocker, but I think he's earned a little more playing time to be out there and maybe more of a role that, well, if I'm out there, the other team's probably leaning towards you got to keep an eye on Dawson Knox.
I saw a stat today that when Josh Allen is targeting Dalton Kincaid, Allen's passer rating.
Did I say Dawson Knox, by the way?
Did I just say that?
No, you said Dalton Kincaid.
You ended your statement with Dawson Knox, but you were talking about Knox. Yes, so we're
Kincaid.
good.
Okay.
Move along. When targeting Dalton Kincaid, Josh Allen's passer rating is 158.1. It's almost perfect. And they have a really good thing going right now, but I'll give you the counterpoint about getting him on the field more for a couple of reasons. Number one, they love to run the football. That is the number one part of their offense that gets everything else going. He is not the greatest of blockers. Jackson Hawes is a great tight end blocker. Dawson Knox is a very good tight end blocker. So if you take those guys off the field and bring in Kincaid, you're taking a hit there at what you're trying to do. Secondly, this is a guy that's dealt with injuries before. I think part of him being out there is he's fresh, right? When he gets out there, he's not banged his head against defensive ends and linebackers the 3 previous plays while James Cook is running for 7 or 8 yards a pop.
Yep.
So that's the counterpoint to getting him out on the field more. I mean, if he's going for 100 yards and getting 6 or 8 catches, well, how much more are you going to put him out there? What do you expect him to get 10 catches for 150 and 2 touchdowns, right? Like maybe, but then is it diminishing returns? Do you lose the part of the run game, and does he get physically drained from doing that?
Something to keep an eye on, as they say. We're going to take a break. We're going to speed things up. We're going to dive into the defensive matchup, Bills versus the Dolphins offense, when we return. All right, welcome back, everyone. Bills, Dolphins, Tua struggling, Dolphins offense struggling. The Bills defense, Andy, they're playing nastier. They're playing better defense. They're banged up to beat the band right now. And it's tough when you look at some of the guys on the injury report on the defensive side of the ball to start the week leading into this game.
Yeah, so we went into practice with Joey Bosa, wrist injury, did not practice. A.J. Epinesa did not practice, concussion. Taron Johnson, groin, did not practice. He missed last week. Daquan Jones, calf, did not practice. Jordan Phillips, dealing with a wrist, he practiced in full. Shaq Thompson, back to again, did not practice. And then after practice, Bernard as well, limited. I guess that's some sort of a positive. Christian Benford, after practice, was not mentioned by McDermott prior to practice. Benford pops up limited with a groin. So they are really banged up right now. They're just limping through it, which is why a lot of people thought, hey, maybe they do something at defensive tackle, right? They did sign Fedarian Mathis to the 53-man roster off the practice squad, so that's something.
Right.
But it's not a trade. But they're banged up. Like, the reason the Bills, and it marries together, but the Bills' pass rush and defensive line, through all the injuries, have been playing well lately. And they really got after Mahomes. And guess who was a big part of that? Joey Bosa. And here we go, right? Joey Bosa got through the game. He played the whole game, spoke with the media after the game, was really excited. But here he is, did not practice. So we'll see how that goes with a guy who's been banged up throughout his career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that Bosa finished the game, and I mean, you got to know that wrist plays a big role in what he does as far as getting to the quarterback. So there are concerns, Andy, on the Bills' defensive line. The good thing is, I think the defensive backfield is really coming around on this. And we'll start with Cole Bishop, and it's almost like Jordan Poyer's arrival in the mix out there has paid off big dividends. And I remember going into training camp Rapp and Bishop talking about how they spent the offseason in Buffalo to work out together. But you got to admit, a guy like Jordan Poyer and what he's done in the game and what he can bring, and I think McDermott even brought up Jordan Hancock is benefiting from Poyer being in the mix regularly right now.
I do think that Jordan Poyer has stabilized that defensive backfield. Has he lost a step? Is he the player he was 3-4 years ago when he was an all-pro and one of the best safeties in the league? Probably not. Matter of fact, the Bills take him out of the game on passing downs, right? Like they'll bring in Hancock, they'll go to dime looks, different things. But I think that just his overall presence, his communication is helping. And Cole Bishop has taken a massive step forward. I think he was perhaps in his best game of his career here in his second season against the Chiefs, flying around. Passes defense. I think he had 4 passes defense. Big hit on Travis Kelce in the end zone. A couple of huge plays on 3rd and 4th downs. Just in command and control. I talked to Bishop here on Wednesday as we record this. I did a sit-down interview. That'll appear coming up this Friday on Spectrum News 1 on TV. And Bishop said, look, losing the time I did to injuries, both in his rookie training camp and this season, like it's not ideal when you're trying to learn things and trying to be the player you want to be. And he said, I feel like I'm coming into my own right now, and I'm playing really well. Is he perfect? No. But that's the second-round pick, what we saw out of Cole Bishop. That's a guy with speed, athleticism, smarts, big hitting, all the things you need in a safety to play the same role that Poyer and Hyde did so well for so many years. And I think like Rapp and Bishop probably get sick of hearing about Poyer and Hyde.
Who wouldn't, right?
Right, but Poyer's here now.
Yeah.
And he's helping them out. And I think that if they continue to see this ascension from Cole Bishop, that'll be huge, and it'll take a big question mark away from what's been kind of questionable top of the drafts for Bean lately.
As far as the matchup goes, Devin Achane, of course, you got to deal with that. Waddle is still there. Tua has had his struggles. We talked about the offense, the Bills' offense going against their defense. I think even though the Bills are banged up, the Dolphins are a mess right now.
Offensively, they're 27th in the league in yardage, 26th in points. It's just really a struggle for them. Passing-wise, they're 23rd. It's not there for them.
The Bills should really run away with this, and we'll get into that after a quick break and a check of your weather. This is the Buffalo End Zone Podcast.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Gilson with your game day forecast, and if you're hoping this was in Buffalo, of course not the case. Here in Buffalo, we're looking at clouds and showers with temperatures in the upper 40s and lower 50s. But if you're making the journey down to South Florida, you're going to be basking in the sunshine there and the warmth. Temperatures topping out middle to upper 80s. Normal high in Miami is 76 degrees, so they're looking at temperatures 10 degrees warmer than average with plenty of sunshine for the Bills and Dolphins on Sunday.
South Florida, Bills game. We might have a sweaty Andy Young on our hands during the postgame show with Stevie Johnson as you get up into the – it's nice for you to get out of town while the weather's starting to turn to absolute garbage.
Chris, I love your forecast, buddy. 82, 84 at halftime. I made the mistake last year of going down to Miami for that Thursday night game. It was in September, and I had a full suit on, and I was just pouring sweat.
I remember.
And, it was sometimes you can kind of mask that on TV with makeup. You wipe your brow when you're not on the air. There was no fixing this.
Yep.
I was absolutely just pouring sweat. So I think I'm going to bring the suit jacket, but 84 degrees at halftime, 82 at kickoff. I'm probably just going to rock a polo and khakis.
Do it.
Put on the Spectrum News 1 polo and just we're going to forget fashion. I'll bring the sneakers, as I always do.
Of course.
Game day kicks. That's going to be my fashion statement for this game.
All right.
One thing I want to bring up about the weather. Remember that game a few years ago when it was
just
so
gonna
hot?
bring that up,
This is an afternoon game, Sunday at 1 o'clock. Bills are going to be wearing their dark blues.
Yes.
Dolphins always wear white at home in these kind of situations, so heat really could be a factor.
Yeah, it will. In the meantime, Bills -9.5 on the road in this one. Makes sense to me, Andy. I make it even bigger, but 9.5 works.
You're not the bookmaker?
I don't even know how this stuff goes, Andy.
You only bet horses.
Yep, I do the horses. That's it.
Yeah, 9.5. I think the Bills cover that pretty comfortably.
Over under 50 points. I mean, I think the Bills could get to close to 40.
Yeah.
Dolphins could get some garbage touchdowns, get you over 50.
I'll say over, and I'm going to say 38-17. The Bills haven't had a good shellacking of the Dolphins yet. They need, you know what I mean?
Right. I'm gonna say they get to 40.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do like 40-14.
We're in the same ballpark.
My dad asks me every week, should he take the over on the Bills? I usually say, I said no during the Chiefs game, and he thought I was crazy because when you're not around the team all the time, you think the Bills and Chiefs just put up mad points constantly.
During the regular season, it's usually a little lower.
Right.
With the Bills and Chiefs.
So I tried to explain that to him, but he didn't buy it. So take the over on this one, and I think you and I are right.
Did you lose a little bit of your inheritance on that one?
I slowly do every week. Just by my personality alone.
Love you, Mr. Carroll.
We're going to take a quick break, take a look around the league, in the AFC, and more. This is Buffalo End Zone Podcast. All right, welcome back, everyone. Take a look at the overall picture in the NFL, Andy, and let's kind of backtrack just a bit for a second, if we can, to the trade deadline and what happened. We'll start with the Jets and the Colts making a deal.
Stunner.
When I heard Sauce Gardner to the Colts, I'm like, man, the Colts are just going all in. They have one of the best records in the league, and they're like, you know what? This is something that sometimes I think I wish the Bills would try and do, is say, we're going to get everything we need to get at whatever the cost is. Colts did that. Jets, on the other hand, are getting a lot of nice picks from this.
Colts go all in, and boy, they better be right that Daniel Jones is good to go, and he keeps them rolling. Because if he's not the guy, now you've just given up your 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years. And yeah, maybe they could trade for somebody else or get another guy that's a reclamation project and continue to do the same sort of thing. But I do like the aggressiveness to bring in Sauce Gardner, to add to a team that already didn't have a ton of holes.
Built for playoff football, to stop teams like the Bills, the Chiefs.
You play in a dome.
That might help the Bills.
I know.
I hate domes, though. I'm glad they didn't build a dome out here, but go on.
So, I mean, good on them, because they see an opportunity and they're going to try to seize it. Now, they lost to the Steelers, right? So they're back down to 7-2, and now that 1 seed is even more wide open. You look at Indianapolis 7-2, New England 7-2, Denver 7-2, Pittsburgh's 5-3, Bills 6-2, Chargers,
all the teams
Jacksonville,
behind
Kansas City out right now.
The bulk of the teams, aside from Jacksonville, behind the Colts right now, did not do anything at the trade deadline as well.
I think Bean was asked about that too. Like, you didn't see a whole lot of massive names other than the Jets and Dolphins fire sales get moved, right? And the Jets give away Quinnen Williams too. He goes to Dallas. I have no idea what Dallas is doing.
I wanted to get into that with you because, come on, Dallas. Who are you kidding? You got rid of Micah Parsons, right, at the beginning of the year. Your team looks like hot garbage.
You're 3-5-1.
In prime time against a Cardinals team that is starting a backup in Jacoby Brissett, who is now the regular because Kyler Murray now goes on IR. But come on, Dallas. Seriously?
I love it. It's one of the best things to watch Jerry Jones just continuously implode his own team year after year. If you were going to do that, you might as well just have signed Micah Parsons. He's a bigger difference maker than Quinnen Williams.
The cutaways of Jerry Jones during that game the other night against the Cardinals was awesome.
Yeah, but you're right. In the AFC, nobody else really loaded up.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, you can say all you want about the Bills, but not much else happened either. What about the Seahawks and Raheem Shaheed going there? I love that. I love Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
And just adding this guy makes Seattle even more intriguing.
It does. I mean, look, if you're a Bills fan, you would have taken Rashid Shaheed, right? Like I said earlier, I don't think he's a massive difference maker, but it would have been an improvement. But he's going to make a difference there for Seattle. And, like, how good is Sam Darnold playing again?
Mm-hmm.
He's great.
I hear MVP talk around Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, good on Sam for kind of reclaiming his career. Note to self, anybody who gets drafted by the Jets, especially quarterbacks, they need to just pull like a John Elway, a Eli Manning, and just say, I'm not going to go play there because it's a tire fire.
I love that because I think the Jets and the Cowboys, as far as teams I dislike, are pretty neck and neck right now.
Yeah.
And I love that they're both disasters.
Real quick, massive game this weekend for the Bills, and it's not against Miami. It's Tampa against the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That's really one of the Patriots' only remaining tests because their schedule is so easy.
And it's on the road.
Right. So you got to go down there and beat Baker Mayfield. And Tampa's very good, right? They're sitting at 6-2. They're in second place in the NFC. If New England goes down there and beats Tampa, they're going to be around all season long, and the Bills are going to have a real hard time passing them.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the weekend. We're going to take a quick break, do a little 3 and out, Andy, and then hit the road. All right, welcome back, everyone. A little 3 and out. 9 coaching semifinalists for the Hall of Fame coming up, and the big name on the list is Bill Belichick. Say what you want about his time down in UNC and his girlfriend and all that.
I like to call it Unk at this point.
Good old Unk down in the Carolinas, but no brainer that Belichick is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. I mean, as many Super Bowls as he won, as many as he coached in, both as an assistant and then the head coach. I mean, arguably the greatest coach ever. You throw a couple of different guys in, Andy Reid, Vince Lombardi, different folks like that. But Belichick is right there on the Mount Rushmore of NFL head coaches.
Also, one of the 9 finalists is former Bills coach Chuck Knox, who's still there in the – I remember from my childhood more of him being with the Seahawks than the Bills, but
had time with the Rams too, right?
Yeah, I think it was Bills, Seahawks, Rams, or Bills, Rams, Seahawks, or something towards that effect.
Right.
But he's still in the mix there too. I don't know if he gets in
at this juncture, and he hasn't yet.
Right, and there's so many other big names on that list. Let's talk about pets, Andy.
Pets, okay.
And Tom Brady's dog.
Oh God, this. How did I know you were going to bring this up?
Announce that the dog is actually a clone of a dog
he had before.
And he's part of this cloning company. And the big responses I've heard of what a jerk Tom Brady is, go adopt a dog. But I mean, if you have a pet, like it crossed my mind. I love my dog, Stassi, so much that the idea that that's possible to just keep getting her back made me really think about this story. But Stassi is a rescue, so we rescued her. So I lean towards that's the way to go.
Would you clone yourself or your kid if you had a kid? Like, Tom Brady has the money to potentially someday clone himself.
I saw this show once. talking about cloning. And the whole concept was we can reach a time where you can clone yourself and keep it in storage. And if you have a problem with a body part, that clone is just there for you to take the body part out and put it in the real you.
Just go to the closet and grab another
Yes.
nail out of the tool shed.
It was so creepy. Like they would show the clone body just slowly rotting into nothing. And it's like, but that if it's a clone, wouldn't it have feelings too? And the whole concept is
But
just,
then you could freeze it like Ted Williams.
that's true.
So you could combine technologies, and then maybe you call Einstein or Stephen Hawking or somebody in travel time too.
We're running out of time, and I could literally talk about this for hours. But I wanted to get to the final 3 and out with you, Andy, because the new Peyton's Places came out, and the first episode is with Bill's Mafia, Josh Allen, Steve Tasker's in it. I watched the whole thing and thought, I mean, Peyton's Places is always funny. The one him and Tom Brady did at Jim Nance's house out in California was a riot. That's a few years old now. But Josh Allen really good in it. Steve Tasker really good in it as well.
Is Josh Allen not the next Peyton Manning? Now, a lot of people compare Manning and Brady with Mahomes and Allen. Isn't that the same? Like, Allen's kind of this dry, funny guy,
Right.
hasn't had quite the same level of winning success as the other guy, his contemporary. And when Allen's done, don't you see him like popping up on SNL and doing these different things like Peyton Manning has?
He's already in every other commercial on a Sunday.
And he has the benefit of getting acting lessons from his wife.
That's part of the episode, by the way. And I think they also ran a clip of Peyton yelling Omaha and Josh yelling Omaha.
They should have had him yelling Manja.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the next step. But the whole idea of it is to break the curse of why the. So if you don't like watching Wide Right, if you don't like watching 13 Seconds, maybe fast forward through the beginning of the episode and just get to when Steve Tasker and company kidnap Peyton in front of the restaurant bar, Big Tree.
Big Tree.
Big Tree. It was great. I highly recommend it.
Let's go get some wings.
I think there are people at the Big Tree right now, probably.
Our media colleagues.
Yeah, I think while you and I are
They would
doing
never saddle up for a beer right after practice, would they? You know who you are.
So, yeah. So, recommend that. I got nothing else. I mean, I think I brought up that Telemasca series with Bill Fichtner in it last week that I have watched a couple episodes.
Oh, let's bring up this. It's set up. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But we got a celebrity podcast guest next week.
I still don't know that guy's name.
Mark Marrow, who was Johnny B. Bad in WCW. He was Wildman Mark Marrow in WWE, Intercontinental Champion. He's from Buffalo, big Bills fan. We're going to talk to him. He's got a cool story.
Yeah, that's supposed to be coming up next week ahead of our preview to the – who are they playing after the Dolphins?
Tampa.
Oh, it is Tampa. All right. Yeah, so that's just around the corner. I think we're out of time right now, Andy.
All right, let's go.
Okay, thanks everyone for watching and listening.